Welcome to the JoyStream TV and the Incredible Women of Toastmasters series. Today I have with me Deb Lee. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm enjoying this so far.
I knew that you would. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
I am the District 37 Governor. I'm responsible for the entire state of North Carolina, from Murphy to Manteo. That means that all the Toastmasters in the state are ultimately my responsibility. It's kind of like being a mom or the Vice President of Education for a club.
All right, so what brought you to Toastmasters? Why did you join Toastmasters?
Well, I came to Toastmasters a convoluted little route. I worked for a company that was a HR outsourcer, and one day our training director and the HR director's assistant came to me and said, "We're starting a Toastmasters club. Come on over and sit through the demo meeting." So I sat through the meeting, hid behind my friend Brian, who was much bigger than me, and at the end of it said, not for me. Went back to my desk, and about an hour later, the two of them plopped down on my credenza and said, "We need you." Oh, not the words I wanted to hear. So I became the Vice President of Education of the new club, and the rest is history.
Wow. So how has Toastmasters changed your life?
I'm an accountant. I live for the spreadsheet. I have the most beautiful color-coded spreadsheets you've ever seen in your life. And the best thing about spreadsheets is they usually don't talk back. So I lived in my little world all by myself. Well, now I no longer have that little safe, secure world. I'm out in the great big world, and I can talk to just about anybody now.
Well, that's cool. Now, when you joined Toastmasters, did you have a mentor?
I did. I had several mentors, and strangely enough, all of them had the same advice, which was, be yourself. Don't try and mimic someone else. Don't try to be something you're not. I'm very down to earth, calm and cool. I don't use big words. I like to have fun with this. And so far, so good.
Huh. So that's actually good advice for Toastmasters and for life, to just be yourself.
Oh, yeah.
If more people could be themselves,
that's true.
The world would be a better place.
Because think about how many people you see on TV who look just like everyone else.
Oh,
Do you want to be a bad copy or a great original? I'd much prefer to be the original.
Huh. Well, that's a really good point. So where do you think you got that lesson in life, to be an original?
Well, I think I got that lesson in life from a phenomenal Toastmaster here in the state. His name is Marcia Barney. The first time I ever went to TLI, Marcia was the trainer for the Vice Presidents of Education. And she said, your job is to make sure that all the people in your group succeed. She said, and the only way you can make them succeed is to give them an example. Don't be like me. Don't be like the person next to you. Be yourself. And people will want to emulate you instead of you emulating someone else.
Huh.
Pretty good advice.
It is. Now, you are in a significant leadership position in Toastmasters. What is your driving force behind your pursuit of leadership?
Well, my driving force in pursuit of leadership is the fact that I didn't want to compete in a speech contest, and everybody said, well, you either go one way or you go the other. You're either in speeches or you're in leadership. Pick one. Well, I picked leadership because it sounded like a lot more fun, and I didn't have to compete against people who were a whole lot better than me when it came to speaking.
So have you ever been in a speech contest?
I've ran lots of speech contests, never participated in a speech contest.
Really?
Yeah, really.
And you still have no desire to be in a speech contest?
Never. Maybe when I'm Jay's age.
Jay's age.
You
have nothing to lose.
I have nothing to lose at that point. I mean, who would, who's going to kick the little old lady who's trying to compete?
Oh, that's too funny. Now, what do you think are the most valuable lessons you've learned from your leadership positions in Toastmasters?
Diplomacy. Definitely diplomacy. I've learned that oftentimes you have to step back and think about the people who are involved in the situation. And oftentimes what's happening to them is very different than what's happening to you. And you don't know all the pieces of the puzzle. So you have to assume the best and deal with it. And sometimes that's not so easy.
So what would you tell our government to do about diplomacy?
Actually, I think our government's going the right direction. We've stopped being a big bully, and we've started being someone who sits and listens sometimes. And sometimes you can learn more by listening than by talking, by looking, or by doing.
Huh. All right, so who are some of the women you admire most in Toastmasters?
In Toastmasters, I'd have to start with Pam Christopher. Pam's been one of my mentors, and she's had a phenomenal life in Toastmasters, and she's going to go even further now that she's running for international director. Marsha Barney would be another one, because the first time I found out that she had 7 DTMs, I thought, I can beat that. Well, I'm almost finished with the second one, but not quite. The third person would have to be Mary Sealbang, and she then, of course, brings me to Helen Yandel. And I received the Helen Yandel Award several years ago, and that was probably the most significant award I've ever achieved in my life.
Now, what is that award? I've never heard of it.
You've never heard of the Helen
Isn't that
Yandel?
awful?
Oh, I got to tell you this. Helen Yandel was a phenomenal Toastmaster. She was a member of 7 Toastmasters clubs. She had 2 teenage children and was killed on her way to a Toastmasters meeting. Her friends created a fund and an award that's given to the club president of the year who has done the most to expand their club's knowledge and exposure to Toastmasters. It's given every year at the fall conference. It's a huge event, and this past year's recipient was Miss Maria Betts from here in Greensboro.
Oh, we love Maria.
Maria's a wonderful person.
Well, congratulations on getting that award.
Thank you. It was a big deal. I actually sat in the audience and cried,
Oh.
even though I knew I was getting it in advance.
Huh.
Yeah.
So what other amazing experiences have happened to you since you've been a Toastmaster?
Well, I met some phenomenal folks at each of the conventions. I went to the first convention in Phoenix, and one of the first people that Pam Christopher introduced me to was Keith Ostergaard. And for those of you who don't know, Keith actually started in Toastmasters, again, here in Greensboro, was mentored by Larry Brown, since went to China, helped grow the Chinese clubs, was number 2 in the world last year, is now running for international director for districts not assigned to regions, and I never would have met Keith without Toastmasters.
So did he move to China because of Toastmasters?
He actually moved to China because of his job, but he brought Toastmasters with him because he had joined a club here in Greensboro as a newly chartered club, and he was a charter member, and he loved Toastmasters, so he took it with him and spread the word.
Wow, that's cool. What do you think can be done to encourage more women to join Toastmasters?
Well, there's 2 things that we need to focus on. Number 1 is to reassure them that it doesn't take that much time. To prepare for a speech, yes, you do have to think about it. Yes, you do have to put all the parts together, but you can do that in the car. Most of us are commuting anyway. You might as well spend the time actively. And the second part of it is to realize that you're important, and your self-development is just as important as your kids, your partner, your work. This is you. You have to sell yourself every day. You might as well use Toastmaster skills to do it.
Well, that's actually really smart to use the car time. You know, because I think, you know, people come into the meeting and they start the meeting with excuses. I didn't have time. I didn't have time. But it's true. We can get a lot done in the car.
Oh, yeah. One of my first mentors is a lady by the name of Beth, and she said, how long is your commute every day? I said, about 45 minutes. She said, how many times are you practicing your speeches in the car? And I said, practice in the car? She said, well, everybody has a cell phone now. If you're talking to yourself in the car, they just think you're on the phone. Nobody thinks, who's this crazy lady over here beside me who's talking to herself? So use the time wisely.
All right, now this coming year, you're in a huge leadership position. So besides meeting the district goals, what other Toastmaster goals do you have for this year, for personal growth or for your life?
Oh, my big Toastmasters goal this year is to get my 2nd DTM. I have 1 more speech in the Communicating on Television manual, which is appropriate that I'm here today. I have 4 more speeches in the Interpretive Reading manual. I need to do a Success Communication, Success Leadership module, and I'm pretty much finished except for the High Performance Leadership project. And like everyone else, I'm struggling with, what am I going to do my project on? But I've got to find something because I'm bound and determined to be finished with that 2nd DTM before June 30 rolls around.